It began with a silence, an eerie calm that cloaked the countryside like a deceptive veil. Tien had just finished watering the garden. Jack was checking the animal feed near the fence line, humming to himself, utterly unaware of the fury that was about to descend. The sky, once serene and painted in gentle pastel hues of late afternoon, began to twist into something far more sinister. The first gusts of wind were sharp, slapping leaves and rattling branches with no warning. Then the rain came, not in trickles, not in steady drops, but in thick, aggressive sheets that pounded the earth like fists from the heavens. It didn't fall. It crashed. Within 10 minutes, the ground began to swell with water. In 30 minutes, the roads disappeared. Within an hour, the stream at the edge of their property transformed into a churning river. Jack's heart pounded as he rushed inside the house. Tien, get the kittens, get the cat. The two scrambled, slipping in mud, barefoot, and soaked adrenaline overtaking panic. Tien had barely scooped up two of the smaller cats when Jack's voice cracked through the storm. "We have to move now." They didn't have time to secure belongings, grab food, or even call for help. With the animals clutched tightly in their arms, they climbed the nearest hill, the one just past the banana grove, as the floodwaters began to rise like a monster waking from slumber. The downpour lasted for what felt like an eternity, 2 full hours of relentless rain thunder that seemed to shake the bones of the earth, and flashes of lightning that illuminated the wreckage in glimpses. And then came the silence again, but it was no longer calming. It was the silence of aftermath, the kind that follows destruction. 2. Destruction revealed a home washed away. The rain ceased, and the sun dared peek through the dissipating clouds. It was as if nature had finally taken a breath. Jack and Tien, soaked and shivering, descended from their hilltop sanctuary, their hearts heavy with dread. Every step down the muddy slope was a step closer to heartbreak. What once stood as a proud and lively farm was now a portrait of devastation. The wooden coop where the chickens used to gather in the mornings was gone. The vegetable beds, lovingly tended every morning, had been reduced to streaks of dark earth. The cornfield, still in its tender stage, had been flattened like paper beneath a wave, and then the animal pens. Jack sprinted towards where the puppies had been kept. "No, no, no, no," he cried, wading through the wreckage. Where are they? The cage had collapsed. The ground was torn open. The puppies, gone. Tien called for the mother cat again and again, her voice raw with desperation. "Where's the mother cat? Oh my God, where's the mother cat?" It was not just the structures and crops that were missing. The lives, the little ones, the companions, they were gone. The pain wasn't just material. It was emotional, soul-crushing. Jack turned around slowly and saw the mother dog, soaked and trembling, wandering among the mud, sniffing frantically. Her puppies were gone, and her eyes said everything her whimpers could not. Tien fell to her knees, tears mixing with the wet soil, overcome by helplessness. They hadn't just lost a farm. They had lost family. In the chaos of the flood, Jack and Tien had found themselves on opposite sides of the rising stream. Jack's voice rang out in desperation. "Tien, where are you?" I'm here!" She screamed back, her voice breaking over the rushing current. The water between them was too high. There was no crossing. Neither had their phones. All they could do was call each other, yell into the storm, pray that the other was alive. "I couldn't reach you," Tien sobbed. "I didn't know if you were okay. I thought the same." Jack answered, his chest tight with guilt and dread. "I kept calling, but the water, it was too high." They could see each other from across the flood, blurry figures against the dusk. Tien waved her arm. Jack lifted a flashlight, a faint signal, a lifeline of hope. "We'll wait," Jack said. "Don't move. I'll come over when the water drops. Promise me, she said, her voice trembling. I promise. It wasn't just about surviving the flood anymore. It was about surviving the night without each other. 4. The community gathers. A beacon in the darkness. The next morning brought more than just muddy shoes and shattered beams. It brought people. One by one, neighbors arrived. First were 2 women from the hamlet above, then several of Jack's co-workers from a construction site miles away. They had heard what happened through whispered phone calls and hastily shared texts. But they didn't come to ask, they came to act. Within an hour, the farm was a hive of movement. Shovels clanked. Wooden beams were lifted. Barriers were wrapped in makeshift fences. Words of sympathy were exchanged, not in long speeches, but in the silent offering of hands and strength. Thank you so much, Jack repeated, but his words felt too small. Tien, still wiping away tears, handed out pieces of melon, grateful for the presence of others when her spirit was too weak to stand alone. Even a local official, Mr. Tu, arrived. Calm, composed, and clearly familiar with hardship. He surveyed the damage, nodding solemnly. The storm last night hit many families, he said. But you two, you were right in the heart of it. He didn't offer empty promises. He offered perspective. This will take time to rebuild, he said. But you're not alone. Later that day, the clouds returned not to rain, but to linger a fitting ceiling over grief. Tien sat by what was once the puppy pen, holding the last unbroken bowl in her lap. The mother dog lay beside her head, down tail, unmoving. Every sound made them both look up, hoping for barking for a miracle. None came. Jack had been silent for most of the morning. His strength had been focused on clearing mud, on inspecting the water line, on pushing away the emotional collapse that threatened to sweep in like the flood had done. But eventually, the silence cracked. I should have gotten them out, he said, voice heavy with regret. You couldn't, Tien whispered. There wasn't time, but I should have tried harder. She reached for his hand. We both did our best. Jack nodded barely. I feel like I failed them. No, she said firmly. You saved me. And in that moment, amidst the loss, they remembered the one thing the flood could not take: each other. Jack stood near the broken fence, the early morning fog mingling with the steam of freshly churned earth. The flood had spared no corner. It had ripped through the land with indiscriminate rage, dragging away fences, chairs, tables, and cages, leaving behind only wet silence and fragments of what used to be. But beneath all the physical destruction, what lingered strongest was the aching weight of emotional ruin. The mother dog, once spirited and protective, now paced endlessly, nose to the ground, chasing shadows and scents that had long vanished into the water. She whimpered softly when she reached empty corners, the places where her puppies had last played, before they were stolen away by the night. As the sun stretched its timid light across the wet soil, Jack and Tien moved quietly between ruins. Their words were few yet heavy. The shack where they stored animal feed had collapsed. The fish pond was murky and empty. The young fish they had released just days earlier were gone without a trace. The land that had once been full of laughter, animal cries, the scent of soil and sweat, it now smelled of decay, damp wood, and loss. A once living space had become a field of grief. Then, almost silently, others returned. Not just to look, but to lift. Neighbors, some of whom Jack only recognized in passing before arrived without being asked. A few brought brooms, others shovels. 2 women carried baskets of food. The men from the construction site, covered in dried cement and calluses, showed up and got straight to work. No questions, no fuss. There was no fanfare to it, only shared pain and instinctive solidarity. Humanity moved between wreckage, carrying not just tools, but comfort. Mr. Tu, a local official with a quiet presence, came to assess the damage. His face bore the wear of many such disasters. He didn't pretend to offer solutions right away. Instead, he listened, nodded, surveyed the land, and helped count what could no longer be salvaged. With a quiet sigh, he looked at Jack and said, "It's not just your place. The whole valley is hurting, but you were right in the center." There was something sobering, even reassuring, in knowing they were not alone in this. It wasn't comfort, but it was truth. In the midst of this communal effort, small moments of warmth bloomed. Tien brought out melon slices, handing them out with quiet gratitude. She hadn't eaten since the night of the flood, but feeding others gave her purpose, a way to contribute. Jack invited the men to rest, but few accepted. Work, it seemed, was their shared language of healing. When Jack sat beside Tien and watched her place a bowl of bran beside the mother dog, who was now curled silently near the collapsed cage, there was a gentle understanding between them. No words were exchanged. None were needed. Later that day, Tien's mother arrived. She came not with questions, but with warm rice, boiled corn, and 2 bags of cake. "I knew you wouldn't eat," she scolded gently, brushing the wet strands from her daughter's cheek. She had walked through half the village to get there. "If you're going to rebuild, you'll need strength. Now eat." Jack took one look at her and couldn't hold back tears. It was not just the food, it was the care behind it, the reminder that in ruin family was still standing. By dusk, the water had retreated almost completely, but the ground remained saturated and bruised. Mud clung to everything. As Jack tried to fix the broken water pipe, his hands trembled not just from cold, but from the weight of responsibility. He wanted to rebuild everything, not just the fence or the coops, but the peace that had once blanketed this place. He wanted to protect Tien from ever feeling this helpless again. He wanted the animals back, the laughter back, the ordinary things that once made up their life. Even as exhaustion pressed heavily on them, they refused to give in to despair. Under the broken canopy of what was once their main hut, Jack lit a small fire, and the 2 of them sat close together. Around them, others began to leave, waving, nodding, promising to return the next day. They were not alone in the dark anymore. They had each other, and they had a village that remembered what it meant to show up when it mattered. Tien leaned her head on Jack's shoulder and whispered, "We'll build again." He nodded, watching the mother dog rest beside them, eyes half closed, but ears twitching at every sound. Somewhere in the night, a new silence settled, not the dreadful hush of disaster, but the solemn calm of resilience. It was the beginning of the long journey back, not just to rebuild a farm, but to reclaim a sense of safety, of home, and of hope. The flood had taken much, but it had also revealed the depth of their strength and the unspoken power of love in the face of ruin. And that more than anything would be their foundation.